kei te aka wahine tēnā koutou. Haere mai. Haere mai mi te kokiritanga o ngā tai e whā. Ko tatu mai e te ahi nei, I runga I te karanga o te kaupapa. Nau mai ki te tai ohanga, nau mai ki mua I te aro o ngā kai kōkiri wahine o roto o te kāwanatanga. Kia hiki ake, kia piki ake. Nō reira tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Welcome. Cease those winds from the south. Cease and still those winds from the west. Let the red-tipped dawn alight with a touch of frost and the promise of those new days. Tihei Mundiora. Clearly glad to have everybody here, and clearly glad to have some of the dignified speakers who are about to talk with us, and to have you inside the Treasury this afternoon. So with that, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. I was up north last week, so I do have to sing this song. We practice it well in Wellington, but it has a beginning, and it goes He tangata ke koutou, he tangata ke mātou, I roto I tēnei rā, ni tātou tātou e. Te whakapono, me te rangi mari e, tātou e. So with the aka wahine, the sacred vine that connects us to the beginning and transfers the knowledge and the connection over time, tēnā koutou, and the operative is tātou, tātou. Well, I think those northerners began that song. Kia ora tātou, welcome. Could I call on Ruth to take the next step? Kia ora, Ruth.
Thanks, Trevor. E te iwi, no mai, hare mai, piki mai, ki te tai ohanga, kia ora katoa. I'm here on behalf of Carolyn McLeish. She's just over with the Minister of Finance at the moment and is dashing back here as soon as he releases her. It's a pleasure to have you here, but the main thing today is to celebrate the strategy for the Government Women's Network, and it is my great pleasure to introduce our inspiring and awesome sponsor, Naomi Ferguson, who I think has a day job at IRD. But as far as I'm concerned, most of her time is about empowering women and enabling Government Women's Network to thrive. Over to Naomi.
Kia ora, tēnā tātou katoa, no mai ki hui tuatahi o te aka wahine o Aotearoa mō te tau 2020. It is fantastic to see you, to see our women of the network, to see our supporters of the network. It's 5 years. And that time has flown since we had some very early conversations. I would have to say I'm not quite sure how I got the title of sponsor, but that's empowerment for you. It's called delegating up, I think. I would like to absolutely acknowledge my CE colleagues, both those who were in role at that time and those still here today, and those who've joined the CE cohort in the time in between. We have always had the support of the CE network for the work of the Government Women's Network from the very first conversations. I'm not quite sure that people really understood what we were quite going to get up to, but there was never a battle or a challenging conversation to be had. And I think we have felt that support right through. And I'm really pleased that some of our CE colleagues could be with us today. Support changed in its form so that we put our money where our mouth was and found a little bit of funding so that we could put some more substantive underpinnings behind the volunteer army that is the Government Women's Network. And I think that was really important because it started to show two things. The network at its heart is an employee network, and it is strong because of the women in the network and across the network. and we should make sure that that always stays. But just giving it enough support and nurturing to be able to grow to where we are today has been really important. So there are now more women in leadership across the public service. There's a very different conversation about diversity going on. It's broadening out much more from gender, as it should, and indeed our funding and support is for all employee networks, and there are many people that are in more than one, which is fantastic as well. So really seeing that empowerment of people in the public service to help us as leaders create a public service that is inclusive and diverse and respects and values all of our talents, skills, experiences and cultures. And I think we can all see as we move forward with the State Sector Reform Act just how much that conversation has changed, as we're now looking to see how to actually bring that into our founding legislation and make sure it's enshrined for time and not just a kind of something that we're here today to see. And as we look at the strategy for GWN, which we're here to celebrate, we can see what we've done over those 5 years, we can see what we've built, and importantly we can see the future and where we want to go to. And with that, I really would like to thank the team that have worked to put that together, because launching a strategy, whether it's for a network, an organisation or a business group, is a piece of hard work and thinking, and done even more when you think about the fact that this network is a network primarily of volunteer, passionate people, passionate women who've come together through the steering groups, through bodies and forums that have supported the steering groups to really think about where we take the network. So hats off to all of you, you have done a fantastic job in getting us here. As I say, we're here to celebrate the past 5 years and to launch the next stage of our development, and I hope that we can continue as CEs to work with you all to make sure that we strengthen the Government Women's Network further and our other networks, and to ensure that we do have that diverse and inclusive culture across the public service. So I'm going to hand over to Ruth, and I will just leave you with our Sandra Norere, Ete Ake Wahine Aira Tiorua, Tena Koutou, Tena Koutou, Tena Tafu.
Thanks, Naomi. I'm Ruth Schnuller. I'm the chair of the Government Women's Network. So I'm really proud to be here on behalf of the Government Women's Network. I'm particularly proud to represent those who've gone before, and I'm so excited to build on their achievements, where it's amazing to take over something which started as an idea and has now become a reality. And we've come such a long way. I hope you pick up a copy of the strategy. It's got a nice timeline which shows where we started, which was an idea, I think, to where we are now with over 2,000 members, 3,000 summit registrations every year. It's truly phenomenal. But also, we've come a long way. I would like you to imagine for a second, when I started out in the public sector a while ago now, in my very first role, I was told as my end of year review feedback that I smiled too much and it made me look too young and too female. There I was, I took it away. And what I took away from that, and it stayed with me for quite a while, was that my gender was nothing but a disadvantage in the public sector. And that was my starting point. What I couldn't imagine then is the future we're in now, where 50% of CEs are women, where our pay gap still exists but it's come down to 10%, and most importantly for me, where the diversity is now seen as a strength. And so the difference of my gender or the way I think or who I am or my background is now recognised to be a strength that we bring rather than a disadvantage. And that is a huge shift, but we've got further to go. The one thing I knew then was I cried into my beer, thinking, what am I going to do? Have I chosen entirely the wrong public sector career? The one thing I learned very quickly was the power of networks. The power of other women who had lived in similar circumstances, who had been through similar experiences, to walk me through that. The power of champions, many of which were men along the way, who would believe in me when I wasn't sure if I believed in me. And then the power of people who inspired me and who showed me a way forward. At that point there were very few senior women, but the ones that did, God, I looked up to them and thought, well, if they can do it, maybe I can do it. And so from that I learned the power of networks. And so that's why I am so excited and proud to have this amazing gig as a chair and to launch the strategy today, because networks really matter. What I like about the strategy is it has a really simple, clear vision. It's to put A public sector that values, champions, and empowers all women. It's pretty straightforward, right? And the problem is that we aren't quite there yet. We've come a long way, but that isn't still the experience for all women. But with the help of everyone in this room, and all our other supporters, and the people who are funding us, and all the volunteer army who are helping us, and the men who are supporting us, we can get there. Talking to women in the public sector since I took over in July, it's really clear that we've got further to go in 4 areas. We need to ensure that everyone can access networks of support. So that means growing outside Wellington and Auckland and even Christchurch, and ensuring that all women working in all the different areas of the public sector can access those networks and support. The second is having access to working conditions that really work, and some women have it amazing and some it depends on the manager you get. We've just got still variable practice. So that's the second area that we're hearing people really care about. Third remains being treated equally. From unconscious bias to really open discrimination, there's still pockets of it that remain, and there are still women affected by it, often particularly in more junior grades or in more admin positions. So we need to tackle that. And then the last thing that we hear is this army of men who want to help, who want to support, but aren't quite sure how to. So that's another area for us, is how do we use that? How do we empower men who want to help and build a more equal public sector and a more inclusive public sector to do so? So we've been looking at those challenges, and in the strategy we set out 6 priorities, just 6, for the next 5 years. The first 4 are all about women in the public sector. So we want to connect more women. Simple. We want more networks, we want more connected networks, we want more women connecting with more women, because the power of networks is strong. The second is we'd like more women to have access to the policies and resources that can help them to work the flexible hours they want to work, or can help them access the things that they want to have, because they do exist, but people aren't always aware. The third, we really want to celebrate achievements and inspire. And if you haven't yet had a chance to go to the summits we run, God, you just leave just buzzing. The inspirational women there, which make you believe that you can do things you never even thought was possible. The kind of, if she can, why can't I, is a huge approach. And then lastly, our priority is about development opportunities. Just making those available, making sure that everyone can access the development that they want to do. So those are our priorities for women. I said we had 6, so there are 2 more. We have a big one for the Government Women's Network. We would like to move from startup to sustainability. We're here 5 years in, and it's been an amazing startup, but everyone here can think of startups that stopped, where a key sponsor, an empowering leader, it all hung on one person, it hung on the time of the day, a particular political dynamic, and it just faded away. So for us as a steering group, our vision as part of the strategy is the Government Women's Network becomes not dependent on the awesomeness of Naomi, or the fantasticness of the steering group, or even the willingness of the CEs who currently fund it. It just becomes a sustainable part of the network and exists. And then lastly, which Naomi touched on, we also have ambition which is wider than women for the broader public sector. We really want to help build a public sector that's super inclusive of everyone. So one of our big priorities is supporting other networks. We're sort of the most advanced, we've been around a while, we've learned plenty of things along this journey. We've learned a lot about what does work, and I suspect a few things about what doesn't. We want to pass that on to other networks, to support those networks to get off the ground, so that the public sector can be really supportive and inclusive of all groups. So that's our 6th additional bonus priority. And we're going to make it happen. I'm really confident. On the back of our strategy, you'll see a set of practical actions we're going to take. One example you'll see this year, we're going to have our first summit in the South Island, which is part of increasing the reach, and part of making it more accessible and more inspiring. We're just going to do some practical stuff, but your support in this room and all the people who have helped out of this room is going to be key to helping us achieve it. And I think 2 things to finish on. One, that it's really important, because I do believe that a public sector that is more diverse and more inclusive is a stronger public sector. It thinks broader, it challenges more, it represents the people we work for better. It's just a stronger public sector. So it's really important that we get there. And on a personal level, I just wish I could reach back to my 21-year-old self, sitting there with my performance review, crying into my beer, thinking about, God, what the hell am I doing? I wish I could go back and tell her, it will change. It will change in ways you can't imagine. And it will change quite fast. And also, you can be part of it. You're going to get to be part of making that change. So finish that pint, finish your crying, get out there, connect with some other women and make a difference. That's what I wish I could tell my 21-year-old self. So I'm super excited because the strategy and doing the Government Women's Network is an opportunity for all of us to give back to our next generation of women and make it better. So thank you very much. And over now to Liz, who will be talking about what we're actually doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Tēnā koutou katoa ko Liz Chin tōku ingoa. My name is Liz Chin. I am the Program Director for the Government Women's Network. I'd like to acknowledge Naomi, our sponsor, Chief Executives, members of the Steering Committee and my GWN colleagues from Auckland and Christchurch. GWN has grown and matured since its early days in 2015, and it's certainly exciting to have an outlook for a further 5 years. Thank you to each and every one of you here today for your support for GWN over the years. It's a bit of a cliche, but we couldn't have done it without you. And I know in this room there are people here who were at that original meeting from 2015. So it's nice to see you here helping to celebrate again at this next milestone for the next 5 years. GWN is unique. It's a thing. It's valued and appreciated by public sector women. We have over 2,000 women receiving GWN's direct communications from over 100 different agencies and organisations. We keep public sector women informed about broader system initiatives that could affect them, as well as learning events, resources, opportunities, and news about the achievement of their public sector colleagues. It's a motivator, and these other women that we're celebrating are real role models for others. So we like to do that. The GWN team, regional and agency women's networks deliver learning events and facilitate professional connections, which is particularly important at Auckland and Christchurch. There's no The Terrace and there's no Mojo coffee shop to be connecting with when you're in the regions. And I think they miss a lot of those kind of opportunities. And I think we often forget it's a 10-minute walk anywhere to meet somebody from another agency, but in Auckland it's a drive across the Harbour Bridge maybe. It's a long way. So it's great to have the combined efforts of the regional networks coming together, bringing the respective agencies together as a network. Over the past 5 years, these events have benefited so many women. On top of this, we have over 3,500 public sector women who've attended our 7 summits over the past 4 years. So it's a pretty good impact. We know the collective impact of women's networks and agencies and their regional networks for women is making a difference. Women feel empowered and they feel like they are part of a bigger movement. Here's an example I wanted to share with you about the impact of, for one woman, she responded to one of our surveys, and I really like this, I find it quite inspiring. So she says, over the years, I lost confidence in my strengths and knowledge and was afraid of pursuing career goals. Since I learnt about the Women's Network, I was inspired by many great women's stories and gained my confidence back. You really motivated me to approach those career goals and aim higher. As a result, I now work in my profession and have well defined my career goals. Definitely improved my confidence, provided me with awareness of career paths, and more importantly, helped me to be proactive. I thought that was just so awesome. I didn't even pay her to say that, but that is testament to the value and the impact of the women's networks, whether that be in the agencies or whether that be GWN or in the regions. We just have to keep going. So over the next 5 years, we will reach more women across the motu. We will need to address challenges for public sector women. We're not there yet, particularly systemic barriers, and to challenge unhelpful attitudes and behaviours that hold women back. We will celebrate women's successes, particularly wahine Māori, and continue to support more public sector women to boost skills and facilitate women's career advancement. We will also share our learnings and support other employee-led networks as they are starting up. And I'm really pleased to see some representatives from other diversity networks here today. It's really important to have you with us on our journey. The GWN team looks forward to continuing to work with the Steering Committee and being the important beacon for all public sector women and employee-led networks. Ngā mihi nui. Kia ora. I would now like to invite our chairs from Auckland and Southern Government Women's Network to say a few words. We have Anita Edwards from the Auckland Government Women's Network, and Jenny Farah DeWatt from Christchurch.
Kia ora, Liz, and especially those who have spoken before me, Naomi and Ruth. Much appreciated. So kia ora ana tātou katoa toa, o ko takitimu te waka no kuki aira ni aho. And as Liz has mentioned, I am Anita Edwards, and I am the proud chair of Te Aka Wahine o Tāmaki. So we're really good at using acronyms here, and so it's also known as Auckland Government Network, but we use the term AGWN quite a bit. I represent a membership of Wahine 900 in Auckland, and that membership is growing rapidly. And our Wahine come from over 40 government agencies across the Auckland region, and actually a third of our membership is from Auckland Council. And so we appreciate having our local government involved in what we're doing also in the public sector. I guess one of the things with Auckland, we've traditionally always held our events in central Auckland, and we've had over 400 wahine attend our events last year, 4 events, and we run seminar series. But we really understood that we needed to obtain a greater reach, and that there were more wahine working across the wider Auckland region, and South Auckland particularly, out west and also over the shore. And so we made it a conscious effort that we were going to take events out to other parts of Auckland. And so we were proud to host, in partnership with Air New Zealand last year, an event at the airport in South Auckland with an attendance of over 120 wahine attending. But what was great about that event, they were also able to bring a young person with them. And so one of the key things that we've really stood strong with in Tamaki Makaurau is that we really do want to keep our foot in the door and allow as many people to come through that, including the next generation coming through. And so we've been really proud to be able to continue that on with our strategy moving forward. I guess when we think about that, and we think about being part of a network, particularly in Auckland and being away from Wellington, we acknowledge that we are part of a wider network, which is the GWN network, which is a membership of over 2,000 members. And so to that, there is strength in those numbers and a sense of belonging for us wahine in Auckland. And so with the makeup of Tamaki Makaurau, also Auckland, is that we are a very diverse nation, and diverse in ethnicity, and so our focus on Māori and Pacific is really important for us, and we've just gone out to recruit for a Māori advisor for our committee, and we should have one on board by the end of March, and that is really going to help our working group really work in partnership with Māori and understand what we can do more of or better in the Auckland region. But in saying that though, agencies are already doing that, and what we also have a privilege of doing in Auckland is connecting with networks that are already doing wonderful work. And so the justice sector, who's from the justice sector here? Yay, okay. Colleagues. So in the justice sector in Auckland rolled out a Māori and Pacific mentoring program for police, Ministry of Justice, Corrections and Oranga Tamariki frontline manager staff. So they were very specific about who they were targeting, because the stats told us that we have lots of women that are sitting in frontline positions and have been for many years, but have not progressed to further their potential. And so we were able to support that mentoring program, and we had justice sector mentees and mentors, and so that program was rolled out in counties Manukau, and we will be rolling that program out to the wider Auckland region this year. And our sponsor has been the Ministry of Justice, which has been fantastic, and they actually supported paying for all 20 of our mentees to attend the Auckland Women's Public Sector Summit last year. And for probably 80% of those women who were mentees, they had never been to a summit before.
And so these experiences the reach is far and wide. There's wonderful things, lots of things happening in Auckland, but we're grateful for the connection we have with GWN here in Wellington, and the various platforms that we have to stay connected to a national group, through the newsletters and just the different messages that come out and the different events. And so from an Auckland region perspective, being connected to a wider network is really important. So just in closing, before I hand it over to Jenny, my colleague, I just wanted to share with you a personal experience of a young prosecutor who attended. She's a member of the Auckland Government Women's Network, and she attended the Women in Public Sector Summit for the first time last year. And in our networking event afterwards, I asked her, well, how did you find the summit? What really stood out for you? And she said to me, that there was a young leaders panel that talked about their experiences about being young leaders. And young leaders isn't necessarily women who are, senior leaders within their own right, but leaders in bringing their whole selves to work, whether it was in the community or different groups that they were connected to. And she said, they stood out to me, and I said, oh, why? And she said, because I actually can see myself up on that stage one day sharing my story. And so, in closing, I just want to share with you that all our women have potential. This platform is an opportunity to help them realise that potential. So thank you very much, and I'll pass the time over to Jenny.
Tēnā tātou katoa. As Liz has said, my name is Jenny Farrar-DeWatt, and I'm the very new chair of the Southern Government Women's Network, with the nickname of GWN. I'm delighted to be here today as part of the GWN whānau, and to give a voice for public sector women in the South Island who generally don't get to come up to Wellington to attend events. My substantive role is with the Department of Corrections, and I'm the development partner in corrections for the South Island. So that's like the learning and development manager. GWN is based in Christchurch, and we've been going for nearly 2 years. We have a current membership of 381 members, and that's made up from 34 agencies across the South Island. A third of our membership does come from the Department of Corrections. Yes, it's increased since I've arrived. The committee, we've got a committee of 15 volunteers, and they're the motivating driving force behind GWN developing relevant events and newsletters for our people in the South Island. For the South Island, there is a huge number of women who work literally out in the field, such as police, Department of Conservation, Aviation Security, Defence Force, Ministry of Primary Industries, Customs, Corrections, regional and city councils. And GWN tries to reflect what these women want in our events and newsletters. Women achieving their potential is one of our big aims, and we encourage and support women into leadership roles. But in reality, we're also very aware that not everyone within the public sector woman is a corporate high flyer, sitting at a desk wanting to smash the glass ceiling or move to Wellington. Because career progression opportunities are quite limited within the South Island. So many of the women in the network want to increase their skills in their current role and to do well. Women need and value the support and communication that GWN provides to them. This year, GWN will carry on the successes of 2019, where we offered skill building and inspiring speaker events working with public, private and not-for-profit sectors. We will increase awareness of GWN and grow our membership in the South Island. We've got 8 events planned and are excited to support the first Women in Public Sector Summit in the South Island. We're also working with our committee because they give time, they give an hour and a half every month to come along. So we're going to upskill our committee members with micro training and leadership sessions, talks by inspirational women leaders at our meetings, and identifying job shadowing opportunities within other agencies and establishing mentors across those agencies with the committee members. GWN is grateful for the support of our agencies and managers. We look forward to this continuing so that we can make a significant South Island contribution to GWN Strategy over the next 5 years, and so that we can see our South Island women flourishing in the public sector. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
And that is a speaking done. Because the point of Government Women's Networks is to network. Please pick up a copy of the strategy. Please have some food, which Trevor is about to bless for us. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for those who use the back who are paid, but thanks mostly to all the volunteers who make it happen. So a huge thanks for coming from me. Over to Trevor who will bless the food, and please do stay around and swap your stories. Thank you so much.
What an inspirational afternoon. Tēnā tātou. So, just before we take food, I'm going to close this part of the meeting, and then I can see the food, so we'll bless it. So in my remit, you make sure you see the food before you do actually bless it. Could I ask us to stand? Join with me by repeating after me. It's a slightly clipped version of karakia, but it is all about aka. Here we go. Piki te kaha. Piki te ora. Piki te wairua. Whitia, whiria. Te aka tū pai. Te aka mau pai. Te aka wahine. Whiti whiti whakamaua. Kia tīna. Uie. Tāie. Beautiful. Nau mai ngā hoa e hora mai nei whakatipu anuku, whakatipu anani. E rongo whakairia ki runga kia tīna. Haumie, uie. Tāie. Enjoy.
I think the Women in Government Network is a fantastic initiative, and it's great that it's been going for 5 years and it's achieved a huge amount in that time, both in terms of just raising the profile of women's careers in the public service, but also running some really great programs so young women in the public service can see that there's great career paths ahead of them, as well as giving them quite practical advice around things like how they go about negotiating to get better pay.
Some of the people that I've met who've gone along to the network functions have been really inspired by what they've heard, by the people they've met. And I think from my perspective, you know, having young people in particular who can see what's possible and ensuring that we've got an environment where people feel that they're able to make the biggest contribution they can. And I think the network does a really good job of making people feel inclusive, included. And I think they're also an inspiration actually for other groups to see what's possible when you can get together, collaborate and just share stories.
If the public service is going to be successful in responding to all the challenges that we have in front of us, it's really important that people feel they can bring their whole self to work, and I suspect that's not always the case for women in the public service. Similarly, it's really important that you have a public service that values different perspectives, and some of those different perspectives come from gender. So having organisations like the Government Women's Network, which just champions the voice of women in the public service, is really important.
So I think the GWN network plays a critical role in the public sector in terms of creating visibility for women, creating opportunities for women to hear speakers, to have exposure and to hear other women's career development journeys. And one of the things we know about a diversity and inclusion approach is the adage, if I can see it, I can be it. And so it's really critical to create those role model opportunities for other women to be able to see themselves and aspire to. So I think critical leadership role.
From my own personal experience, I think what GWN is doing is pretty awesome, especially given the different experiences that men and women have in any workplace anyway. And but I also think in their current strategy, they've got one bit there about helping other networks get started, and that's something that I'm really excited about. And helping other networks, like for example, starting up a Pacific network. And I'm Pacific, also a woman, and all those intersections need to be appreciated and also embraced. And that's what I love about GWN. They sort of embrace who you are as a whole person and not just parts of you. Yeah.
The work that GWN has done over the past couple of years that I've been involved has been in actually setting a really firm foundation, I think, from which departmental committees can step forward. I've been involved since the relaunch of the National Office Women's Network at the Department of Corrections, and we have had an amazing success and also internal support from our senior leaders. And I think without the work that GWN has done to promote diversity in organisations, we wouldn't have had the success that we have had. I'm really looking forward to what the next 5 years brings. I think there's a lot more work to do. One of the changes that I have seen, and it's obviously a focus for GWN going forward, is how we work alongside men and bring them in with us as our allies to actually open up more and more opportunities.
Actually, I've been an honorary member of MFV Women's Group since as far back as nearly 4 years ago. And in general, I am at heart a diversity and inclusion champion of all forms of D&I in a meaningful way. And something that I've observed as an honorary member of the MFV Women's Group is actually how dedicated its core members are at providing events to foster a sense of community and to build that sort of narrative of what it means to be a woman working in the public sector. And hearing those stories and perspectives as a male, it's very enlightening, and it's useful for me to then foster dialogue from my own experiences and contribute back to see how can I help and be an ally to women, my female colleagues at MFE and in the public service.
So we just launched the GWN Strategy today, and thinking about what we do next as a result of that, I think the way forward is about strengthening what we already have. So we've got our GWN network based here in Wellington, Auckland and in Christchurch. And really just working, that's laid a really good foundation for what we're already doing. We're doing some great things, and we just need to continue to receive the support to keep doing better things.